She didn't return the dog for money. She returned him because she knew what it felt like to be lost. He was a billionaire, hidden away from the world, grieving in silence. She was a struggling dog groomer with nothing but a kind heart. But when their lives crossed, because of one lost golden retriever, they both found something they never expected, a reason to hope again. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you love stories that touch the heart. Give this video a like if you believe kindness still exists in the world. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you found a lost dog with no name? It was a quiet Sunday evening. Most shops were closed, and the streets were nearly empty. The sky was grey and the wind was cold. Jessie, a young dog groomer in her mid-20s, walked home from work. Her clothes smelled like soap and shampoo. Her back hurt from bending all day, but she didn't complain. She was used to hard days. As she turned into the alley behind her small apartment, she heard a soft whimper. She paused. There, near a trash bin, sat a golden retriever, wet, shaking, and alone. His fur was dirty, and he looked tired, but his eyes were gentle. Jessie slowly knelt down and held out her hand. "Hey there, buddy. Are you lost?" The dog didn't run. He walked toward her and placed his head in her lap, as if he had finally found someone safe. Jessie looked around. No collar, no leash, no owner in sight. She checked for a tag, nothing. With a sigh, she whispered, "Looks like you're stuck with me tonight." Jessie brought him up the back stairs to her tiny apartment. She only had one blanket and one meal left, but she gave both to the dog. As she watched him curl up on the floor beside her, Jessie smiled softly. "I don't know where you came from," she said, "but you're not sleeping outside tonight." She had no idea that this dog belonged to one of the richest men in the state, and she had no idea how this one act of kindness would change her entire life. The next morning, Jessie woke up early. The golden retriever was still asleep by the door, his tail gently wagging every time she moved. It made her smile. It had been a long time since someone had been happy just because she was near. She gave him a quick bath in her tiny bathroom sink. He didn't fight it. He just stood there calmly, like he trusted her completely. Once he was clean, she dried him with her only towel and gave him a name. "Lucky. I don't know who you belong to, Lucky," she whispered, "but I bet someone's missing you real bad." Even though she was barely getting by herself, Jessie spent the next hour printing out flyers using the last of her savings at a corner print shop. The flyers were simple. "Be found dog. Golden retriever, very friendly. Found near Monroe Street. Please call or text if he's yours. Jessie." Phone number. She walked around town, taping the flyers to telephone poles, gas station windows, coffee shop doors, anywhere people might see them. Some folks ignored her. One woman rolled her eyes and said, "You really think someone's going to give a reward in this town?" Jessie didn't respond. She wasn't looking for money. She just didn't want a child somewhere crying over a missing dog, or an elderly man waiting by the door, hoping his best friend would come back. Back at work, she put a flyer on the grooming shop's front window. Her boss, tired and grumpy, looked at her and muttered, "You better not be bringing strays in here again." Jessie just nodded. All day long she kept her phone close, checking every few minutes, hoping it would ring. But it didn't. That night, Jessie walked home with sore feet and a tired heart. Lucky ran to greet her the moment she opened the door. "Still no word, huh?" she said, kneeling to hug him. As she held him close, something strange happened. She realized she didn't want to let him go, but she also knew sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest thing. It was almost a week later. Jessie had put up over 30 flyers. Still no one called. By now, Lucky followed her everywhere, tail wagging, eyes full of trust. He waited by the door when she left for work and leaped into her arms when she came home. One evening, as the sun was setting, Jessie was brushing Lucky's fur on the front steps when a sleek, black SUV pulled up slowly to the curb. She stood up cautious. The window rolled down. A tall man in a dark suit leaned out. His voice was calm but serious. "Are you the one who found the dog?" Jessie nodded slowly. "Yeah, his name's Lucky. He's been with me for about a week." The man looked at her with quiet disbelief, then turned back and said something into a small earpiece. Then he opened the door and stepped out. "His real name is Franklin. He belongs to Mr. Warren Cole." Jessie blinked. Warren Cole. The name sounds familiar. The man nodded. He used to run Coltech, Billionaire, but he hasn't been seen in public for over a year. Jessie's stomach dropped. She had been brushing the dog of a billionaire on her porch like it was nothing. The man continued. Mr. Cole hasn't let anyone visit the estate in months. No reporters, no guests. He hasn't even spoken to his board members. Jessie hesitated, holding onto Lucky's leash tighter. "I'm not trying to cause trouble," she said. "I just wanted to help the dog." The man surprised her with a faint smile. "He knows, and he asked to meet you." Jessie's eyes widened. "Meet me? Why?" The man paused. "Because the dog, Franklin, hasn't gone near anyone since his wife died. He barely eats. He won't sleep unless someone's nearby." Jessie glanced at Lucky, who was now sitting calmly beside her, looking up with soft eyes. "But since he's been with you, something's changed?" Jessie took a deep breath, heart pounding. She wasn't dressed for meeting a billionaire. She wasn't used to being noticed at all. Still, something inside her said this was the next step in a story she never saw coming. She took Lucky's leash and stepped toward the SUV. What she didn't know was that behind the gates of that mansion was a man who had lost everything, and a dog that was about to bring them both back to life. The drive to Warren Cole's estate was long and silent. Jessie sat in the back seat with Lucky, his head on her lap the entire ride. Her hands trembled just slightly, not from fear, but from not knowing what to expect. They passed through 2 sets of iron gates before reaching the mansion. It was enormous, stone walls, long windows, and a front door that looked like it belonged in a museum. But despite the beauty, the place felt hollow. The garden was overgrown. No lights on, no sound but the wind through the trees. Jessie followed the driver inside. The air was still, cold. Then the soft footsteps echoed on the marble floor. A man appeared at the top of the stairs. He wasn't what she expected. Warren Cole didn't look like a billionaire. His hair was messy. His clothes were plain. His eyes tired and empty. He walked slowly, like the weight of the house sat on his shoulders. When his eyes landed on Lucky, on Franklin, they softened just barely. "Frank," he whispered. The dog perked up, wagged his tail slowly, then ran forward. But instead of leaping into Warren's arms, he turned halfway and looked back at Jessie. Warren stopped walking. That moment, just a look between the dog and the girl, said more than words could. He likes you," Warren said quietly. Jessie gave a nervous smile. "I've been calling him Lucky." Warren knelt to the floor, holding the dog gently. His hands shook. "He hasn't let anyone touch him since my wife passed." Jessie's heart sank. She could hear the pain in his voice. Warren stood, brushing off his pants. "I expected someone who wanted a reward, or someone who'd keep him." Jessie looked down. "I wasn't planning to keep him, but honestly, it started to feel like he was keeping me." There was a long pause. Then Warren said something she never imagined. "Would you stay for dinner? Not as a guest, as a friend of his." Jessie nodded slowly. She wasn't rich. She wasn't dressed up. She didn't feel like she belonged in that big, cold mansion, but Lucky did. And somehow maybe she did too. For the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel so empty. The dining room was quiet. Jessie sat across from Warren at a long, polished table that could seat 20, but tonight it was just the two of them. And Lucky lying peacefully between them, like he belonged to them both. Dinner was simple, just soup and bread, but it was warm. And for Jessie, it was the first time in a long time someone had cooked for her. Warren watched her quietly, not in a judging way, but like he was trying to understand who this girl really was. This stranger who had brought life back into his house just by walking through the door. "You live nearby?" he finally asked. "Couple blocks from the grooming shop," she said softly. "I rent a room above a laundromat. It's small, but Lucky didn't seem to mind." Warren raised an eyebrow. "You took care of him with nothing?" Jessie shrugged. "I've been broke most of my life. Doesn't mean I can't be kind." That hit him hard. He had millions, but hadn't felt kindness in years. He cleared his throat. "You didn't ask for money." Jessie smiled. "Didn't lose the dog for money either." There was a pause, one of those moments that hangs in the air, just long enough for truth to find space. Then Warren said, "Would you stay?" Not just for tonight, I mean. Would you consider working here? Jessie blinked. Work here? I need someone Franklin Lucky trusts. Someone to take care of him. Walk him, feed him, maybe train him a bit. He listens to you. He looked away, then added quietly, I haven't seen him this happy since my wife passed. Jessie hesitated. She wasn't used to offers, especially not from people like him. Rich people didn't look twice at girls who worked with clippers and brushes all day. But this man wasn't just rich. He was lonely. And so was she. I can't promise I'm perfect, she said. But I'll treat him like he's mine. Warren nodded. That's all I need. In that moment, no contracts were signed. No money discussed. No plans made. Just two broken people and one dog, slowly starting to heal. The next few days were quiet. Not the cold, empty kind of quiet the mansion used to hold, but the kind of quiet where something gentle is growing. Jessie moved into the guest room, just down the hall from Warren. She didn't bring much, just a small bag of clothes, a hairbrush, and an old photo of her mother she kept tucked in her wallet. Her first job each morning was to take Lucky outside to the garden. The garden had once been beautiful, but now the flowers were wilted and the fountain dry. Jessie didn't mind. She brought music with her, humming softly while Lucky ran through the grass. By the third day, she brought clippers and started trimming the dead branches herself. Inside the house, things changed little by little. Jessie opened curtains. She played soft music while doing chores. She cooked breakfast for herself and started leaving a plate near Warren's office door. At first, he didn't touch it. Then one morning, the plate came back empty. That night, he showed up at the table. No words. Just sat, fork in hand, and ate in silence. Jessie smiled to herself. She never asked him to talk. She just gave him space to feel human again. One rainy afternoon, Warren wandered into the living room where Jessie was brushing Lucky's fur. She looked up, surprised. He was holding something, a dusty photo frame. My wife, he said softly. Emily. She loved this dog more than anyone. Jessie took the photo gently. It showed a bright-eyed woman, arms wrapped around Lucky, both smiling in the sunlight. She had cancer, Warren said, sitting slowly. By the time we found out, it was too late. Jessie didn't speak. She didn't say, I'm sorry, or that's so sad. She just listened. And that was more than anyone had done in a long time. She made this place feel like home, he continued. After she passed, the silence became unbearable. Jessie nodded. I know what silence like that feels like. Warren looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time, not as someone who returned his dog, but as someone who understood grief in a language he thought he'd forgotten. That night, as Jessie passed by the study, she heard something that stopped her. Laughter. Warren laughing. At Lucky chasing his own tail. It was soft, brief, but real. The mansion wasn't silent anymore, and neither was he. The day started bright, warm, peaceful, like the house had finally learned how to breathe again. Jessie walked Lucky in the garden while Warren watched from the balcony with a quiet smile. For the first time in a long time, the estate felt alive. But by late afternoon, dark clouds rolled in. Then the sky cracked open. Rain fell fast, hard. Thunder shook the windows. Jessie closed the back doors and called out, Lucky, inside! But there was no sound. She searched the house, each room, each hallway. Nothing. Lucky? She called again, her voice sharper now. The back gate. It was open. Her heart dropped. Warren! She yelled, rushing into the living room. Lucky's gone. They grabbed umbrellas and ran out into the storm. The rain was blinding. The wind pushed against them like walls. Jessie's clothes clung to her skin. Her shoes sank into mud, but she didn't stop. She screamed his name again and again into the storm. Lucky, please. And then, a bark. Faint, distant. Jessie followed the sound to the edge of the woods near the back of the property. There, stuck in a tangle of old fencing, was Lucky, soaked, shivering, scared. Jessie dropped to her knees and pulled him out with shaking hands. Hey, I've got you, she whispered through tears. You're okay. I've got you. Warren caught up moments later, out of breath, drenched. He saw Jessie cradling the dog like a child, sobbing into his fur. Then she broke, not just from the fear of losing Lucky, but from something deeper. I can't lose anyone else, she whispered. Not him too. Warren knelt beside her, confused. Jessie. She looked up at him, eyes full of something she hadn't let anyone see until now. I grew up in foster homes, she said quietly. They always said people would come back for me, but no one ever did. Her voice cracked. Lucky was the first one who looked at me like I mattered. The rain poured down, but neither of them moved. Warren slowly reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. I know what that feels like, he said. I've had everything in the world, and still felt completely alone. They didn't need to say more. In that moment, in the mud, in the rain, soaked to the bone, they understood each other more than words ever could. Two people both left behind in different ways. Finally seen. 3 months later, the house didn't feel like the same place. The walls were still the same stone. The rooms were still large, but now they were filled with music, fresh flowers, and laughter. The once overgrown garden now bloomed with color again, thanks to Jessie, who had turned her morning walks with Lucky into a quiet ritual of care. Warren, too, had changed. He began rejoining his company, slowly at first. Zoom calls from the study, then board meetings. But now he didn't seem distant. He was present, kind, even joyful at times. One day, he asked Jessie to ride with him into town. They pulled up in front of a small building she didn't recognize. The sign read, Franklin's Haven, a rescue shelter for abandoned dogs. She looked at him, confused. He smiled. I built it in your name, for the way you rescued both of us. Tears welled up in her eyes. She turned away to hide them, but he gently touched her arm. I used to think love was something that ended with grief, he said softly. But you showed me it can begin again, with something as simple as returning a lost dog. That evening they returned home and walked Lucky through the garden as the sun set. Jessie paused, feeling a peace she hadn't known in years. Funny, she whispered. I thought I was giving your dog a home. Warren looked at her with the softest expression. But really, you gave one to me. Then slowly from his coat pocket, he pulled out a small box. Inside, a simple gold ring. No flash, no grand speech. Just a quiet promise. Jessie covered her mouth in shock. I don't need anything big, he said. Just someone to stay. Someone who understands. And someone Lucky already chose. Her answer was already in her eyes. Sometimes returning a lost dog can return a lost heart too. If this story touched you, don't just scroll away, like the video, drop a comment below, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what kindness can do. And don't forget to turn on notifications, because the next story might change your day or your life. Tell us in the comments, have you ever saved a stray or been saved by one? We'd love to hear your story.